Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us. We're broadcasting from the Thomas K. McKeon Center for Creativity, and I'm your host, Corey D. Taylor. My guest today is going to talk about the real side of what it takes to make it in the music industry. She is none other than Sarah Marie. If you want to hear the real struggle and know what it takes to make it in the music industry, and you have not yet made it to your success yet, well, you've come to the right place, so stay tuned because this is Up Close with Corey Taylor. Hello and welcome back. We are here with singer-songwriter Sarah Marie. Hey lady, how you doing?
How are you?
You doing good?
I'm good.
I'm hoping that you're going to kind of come out of your box because, you know, you and I over the years have had some amazing conversations. But as I start this show off, I always like to ask my guests the one thing that I think everybody wants to know. What have you been up to?
Well, let's see. Told me to come out of my box, so let's take this box back a year at least or so. So in the last year, I finally branched out of my shell, which I never really pictured myself having a shell. But, you know, being in the career world, I guess, you know, trying to work the 9 to 5 and do music and all that stuff. And last year, my whole world kind of shifted. So my dad passed on a Tuesday morning, and the Monday before I lost my job. And I was in the oil and gas industry, just the market, you know. And so, you know, thinking prior to that as a musician, everybody always wants to go to Nashville, or everyone tells me, you need to go to Nashville, why are you here? I love Tulsa. Tulsa's my home. Never had a desire to go to Nashville. But it's one of those things that if you want to learn and grow as a musician and as a songwriter, if you don't move there, it's a place that you at least need to be for a little while. So the opportunity opened up for me to go out there and moved out to Nashville. And moved out there and started writing with people right away, which was kind of amazing. You don't expect to meet people so quick. I figured I'd be there, you know, hat in hand, kind of begging everybody. And they're not like that. They're really cool. It's like a family. And when they know that you're new, they're quick to introduce you to different people. And
Well, that's awesome. Let me share something with you that you maybe don't know. So we had some friends of yours, We the Ghost, on the show years ago. It's actually, I can say that now. It's been years ago. It wasn't last year. It was like a couple of years ago, I think. And, you know, the lead singer of that group, Bo, he gave a great compliment, and he said, like, you were like one of the best singer performers, you know, and so it was only befitting. We've had so many people on here like Brandy Hamilton, Tony Mason, those local people that have ventured off and did national things. And, you know, it's like long time coming for you to come on the show. So I just want our viewers to know that it took us a while to get you here.
Whatever,
but
you're being a hater. It's fine. No big deal. No big deal.
You're finally here because I know if people know anything about music of the Tulsa sound or whatever, you've been in that thing for over like the last 10 years and you have not ever got the credit you probably deserve because, I mean, from singing at festivals all over Oklahoma to appearing with We the Ghost, singing with them and just a bunch of other groups. And not only that, but you used to be a part of another group that was formed by you and, you know, your husband at the time, Apogee,
right.
You know, who was working with Michael Todd, who actually was one of the producers for Wayman Tisdale. So take us back to that time, because that's when I first met you. Take us back to that time. What was that like? And you were so much younger then, and really like boom, 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 long hair, dark. Ugh. No, your hair was. I remember seeing you. You had this real long hair, and it was dark black, and you were just doing your thing.
I called it my Elvira look. That's what everybody else said. You look like Elvira.
That's
like,
what it was. So take us back to that time with music.
So I've done music, like you said, for quite a while. Been singing since I was a kid. Never really took it seriously until my early teens, probably. I really wasn't that good as a kid. I was not a child prodigy. I remember asking my dad if I could be a singer, and he never forgot this day either. But he said, you know, I'll never forget when you came to me and you said, Daddy, can I be a singer? And he said, yeah, honey, just as long as you get a day job too. You know, he had no confidence in me whatsoever. And, you know, I just knew like I had it, but I was not that good. And then it's like you just kind of come into this part of yourself, I guess. I don't really know how to explain it, but early teens, and that was when my dad was like, okay, maybe she's got something, and started, encouraging me to get in choir and all that kind of stuff. So, leading up to that, I just started as soon as I could. Probably my junior year, I think, I got into a band in high school, and that really helped develop my, I guess, a culture of learning how to become a musician. I played piano a little bit, but I did it mostly just for writing. I never played like to play and sing. I'm still not that great. But I knew that, you don't get the full experience until you play with the band. So started with that, and then that kind of fizzles out, and you go through life and get back into the career world. So I was content with just kind of being behind the limelight and just singing with different people, but not really focusing on trying to be like a solo artist or anything. And then when I met my then husband, realized that he was in music too. And so it was one of those things where it just kind of came full circle again, like, okay, maybe we could try and do something together. And he had been doing stuff in California, which is where he's from. And so it just worked out that, we could write some music together. We both had that same passion. So I took some music that I had already written and just put on the shelf for a little while, and, revamped it so that he could be a part of it. He was a rapper. And so we did kind of this Black Eyed Peas kind of thing, which was really fun. And we toured all over the place. We worked with a lot of churches, Owasso schools. We did a lot of stuff with them. And so that was really cool because it introduced me to, yet again, a whole other world of music and where it can take you and the people that you meet. And also the genre, that was very different for me, being, my background was more like on the rock and roll kind of side of things. When I first started my first band, I probably looked gothic. I look back at pictures and I'm like, oh God, what was I thinking?
When I first saw you were on your Elvira stuff, it was like dark makeup, dark hair, and I was like, she's interesting. Like, and then I learned about who you were and the group Apogee, because at that time I was working with an artist that I was trying to take through Michael Todd and stuff like that. And at that time, he talked about how amazing you all's music was, and then I actually got a chance to listen to it, which prompted me to say I remember that time I hit you up on social media and I was like, yo, I like your music, and then you was like, who is this? And then I said, oh, I heard your music at Michael Todd's, and you was like, boop, boop, okay, you cool now. So I can understand back then. I can understand back then, you were even like, doing your music thing, you were getting like weird people trying to follow you and stuff like that, because not only did you do the music thing, but years later you just keep on doing music, because then you start doing DJ karaoke DJ, and and then I would also oftentimes come see you do your thing, and I used to hear the guys like, oh my God, I like her, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, man, she got a lot of folk that's like weird, like giving you all this kind of maybe negative attention. Were you able to handle that back then?
It's kind of an eclectic thing, if that's the right word. So when you get into any entertainment industry of any kind, you get to a place where people, especially with social media, I think that what has vamped everything as far as making you approachable. And it's also very much so blurred the personal boundary lines of like where you would normally maybe be more reserved to approach someone. Social media is kind of broken down, almost an icebreaker, if you will, as far as giving people permission to reach out and connect. And so you kind of have to take one with the other, that if you're going to sign up to be in the spotlight, if you will, of any kind, you have to prepare yourself. And I know for guys it's hard too, but as a female, I really had to get prepared because I was by myself a lot, then went through, my divorce. And so now I'm really by myself. So I have no, go-to person that's like, I can just say, go thwart off this weirdo. So you kind of get used to dealing with people and how to talk with them, but without treating them like they're weird, even if they are, because there's some weird ones.
There are some weird ones, trust me.
I found what worked for me in those moments, honestly, I am who I am, man. Like, my personality.
You're cool.
Well, I don't know about that, but I just, it's like I'm very what you see is what you get. I'm bold, I'm honest, I'm going to be upfront with you. And so if I'm not digging you or if you're in my space, I'll let you know. And usually what I have found is, especially with the guys, if I just give them a real firm handshake, like let them know I will knock you out if you want to come any closer, that kind of set the deal of like, okay, like maybe I should stay right here, you know? And for the most part, I will say people have been very respectful of that. I haven't had any issues where somebody's been too pushy. And if they have on social media, you got that block button and then you're done. So.
Good. Now that's interesting because you talked about social media, but now you and I previously had a conversation about how, you know, in the whole music and entertainment arena, it's all about social media now.
Right.
So let's shift from like, here are the weirdos, but now you have to literally, it demands entrenching yourself in social media now to be successful in music. And you said when you were in Nashville, in our previous conversation, you kind of now realize you have to take that more serious now. Where social media used to be, oh, I'm just on the days of MySpace.
Right.
Oh, I'm just here. I want people to, you know, listen to my music. But now it's almost mandatory that you're out there on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, Twitter, making a name for yourself. So what did you learn when you said you were in Nashville about social media?
Well, like you said, going back to the days of MySpace and all that stuff, you went from having just a personal blog where you could air your dirty laundry and what food you eat and blah, 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 to it has become an international access point, and that works both ways. So for both the artists, you know, it's an instant way to get your music out there and not having to go through certain channels. It's also an instant network for labels and managers and, you know, PR people that are looking for talent. So they can just go find out whoever has the most hits on YouTube instead of having to scout through their normal channels. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse in that, you know, from an artist standpoint, I have access to put my music out there. I have access to people that I might not otherwise be able to reach because they're now a Facebook message away instead of, you know, 13 degrees of separation and you hope you get a call or something. So in Nashville, you know, working with some of the people that I have, you know, I was told very specifically that until you have a minimum of a certain number of followers, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to get anyone's attention. That, you know, labels and other talent agencies are looking for that specifically. And so they may absolutely love you, but if you've got 3,000 followers on your Facebook, that's nothing.
Right.
And so Instagram, Twitter, they want you on all of it. They want you building all of it. And you have to do that groundwork almost prior to, because even if you meet these people, it's like, okay, the first thing that they ask you is how's your social media?
Right.
And if you're like, you know, they're gonna be like, well, we like you, but come back to us when you've done the legwork.
Because those are built-in consumers. And, you know,
Yeah.
I'm working with a group now called Option One. We've worked on a couple of videos. We've had them on the show. But they got the attention of Mac McKinney, who's a Grammy Award-winning producer. But this young guy, the story they tell is they met him in Oklahoma, but he lives in L.A., but his parents live here. And they met him at a studio. He was just coming through, talking to some friends. And then this one dude, Camden, who is the leader of the group, he gets his phone number and he hits him up for like a year and a half, just constantly like, look, man, here's our music, blah, 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 blah. Well, they're thinking once we get him, then we're good. Then he comes. He's like, guys like you, we're going to start working with you, going to start doing music. And then they're like, yeah, so when we go to the label, he said, don't work like that. Same thing you're saying. He's like, we got to get some numbers. And like, so they went from, with his help, they went from like only like 40,000 on Instagram. Now, yeah, that's a lot. And they did a lot of that prior, but now they're at almost 50,000. So they're growing, which Instagram is a lot harder to grow a lot of times. But then their Facebook public page skyrocketed. It went from like 500 or 600 to now they're over 10,000 and climbing very fast. But then he also took them to their first video is over 100,000 views with Facebook, and it combined they're at 300,000 views. So now he's like, okay, so we just got to keep doing what we're doing to prepare, keep building the social media, and then once we get the numbers, now we can take you to the record label connections that I have, and we can talk about getting some type of a deal. He said, but until then, you're the same people that you have always been, because nobody's going to touch you until they know that you have that built-in consumer base.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, the industry has changed so much, and being in Nashville the short amount of time that I have been up until now, you know, you're learning some very harsh truths at this point that, it is not what it used to be. And, the days of getting a pub deal, that's not happening anymore. Or if it is, it's very rare. And so you have to find other ways to get involved and to network and to get attention, which, in all honesty, I did not move to Nashville for that purpose. But what I did move there for is what I've been getting, which was to learn. I wanted to learn more about the business. I wanted to learn more about songwriting, and writing with other people that are just as passionate. Tulsa has a lot of talent. I've worked with just about everyone here, which, and I've learned so much from them, and it's part of why I even went to Nashville. Was less because, of the dream of, moving to Nashville, but there is something to be said about the network and the conglomerate of hard work that has been put into that town. And so, and twofold, that the people that are there and the people I have met are so willing to share that information that they have spent 10, 15, 20 years hustling for and learning the hard way. I'm able to sit down with them, and they're just sharing with me and giving me any shortcuts they can think of because they believe in me and believe in my story and what I'm after. And so it's been an eye-opening experience all around.
And the thing that I found that was amazing about you now, knowing you over the years now, man, it's I don't want to say how long it's been now, but it's been some years now.
Don't date us, Corey.
Yeah, don't date us, right? I've seen your growth, but I remember, like I said, when I first heard you with Apogee, and I've seen you grow. So would you say that you're better as the solo artist, or you much rather be with a band?
Honestly, like where I can do it by myself and I don't mind it, it's not the most enjoyable. So it's one of those where, stand alone, I can do it, I'm independent, can make it work, I'll work the business angle, I can handle all of that stuff. But I don't know, I loved being in bands, and I loved, even here was working with Jamie Hooper. We've played together for 4 or 5 years now. And, it's like I've done stuff by myself, but then you play with someone of that caliber and his talent and put the two of us together, and it's like magic happens.
Yeah, I've got a chance to see you all perform together.
Empire
so Duo.
So you feed off of each other. And same with We the Ghosts, working with Bo and Jocelyn and Matt and the whole group. Like, you have all of these incredibly talented people, but then you bring all of these personalities into one aura, if you will. And so it becomes more about the experience. And the only thing I will say is to further on that note, is it depends on what genre I'm doing. So if it's more on the cover side of things and, that kind of experience, and I much prefer a band. It's more fun, you have the groove, you're able to bring in so many other elements. Even breaking down to the duo, I will say that that's still better than just me trying to do it by myself for 3 or 4 hours. You can do it. You get paid more, but it's not as fun. And so for me, it's the experience.
And I can tell that you're a team player, because there's been a couple of times that, you're out there, Sarah Marie, but then every time it'd be like, I'm getting ready to start a new band. You can tell you like that camaraderie. With that being said, you also have been instrumental in helping an Emmy be won when you were working with Rich. Now, was it for the Christmas thing?
Yeah, so Rich Lenz from Channel 6, so he writes a song every year. And it started, so his background is he is originally from New Orleans and was displaced during Katrina. And so he and his family moved up here after that, and he got a job with Channel 6, and he's been with them ever since, as far as I know. And so I met them 2 different ways. So met Rich through Jamie Hooper, the one I play with, who also works for Channel 6. He does all the camera work behind the scenes.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So, so that's how I got to know Rich. And then Leanne and I have known each other for several years and went to church together as well at Asbury. And so it's kind of been like a little group of just friendship outside, and then, working with them. So get connected with Rich and find out what he's doing. And there is a children's network and I can't remember the name of it, but it's a charity organization that his heartstrings get pulled for. And so he writes these Christmas songs for them every year. So that's how it got started. So he was doing it back then and has just continued the tradition
So
here.
Many Blessings, I think, was one of the
Yeah,
songs. Right. Go ahead.
Yeah, so and so I've been a part of two of them now, and so that was really neat. Just he's so welcoming, and he has such a charismatic personality. But he's also, you see him as this news persona, and you would never know that he's such a talented musician. And so he plays guitar, and he's very good at it. Good songwriter, fun personality to be around. And then, of course, the people he's connected with. So that's been pretty fun.
Man, so being a team player, being solo and things of that. So what has been the biggest things that you have learned in your journey of doing music? Because I know when we had a previous conversation the other day, you said, I just want to be a singer, songwriter. I'm not really worried about the whole big making it thing now. So like, where are you at now in your process, and what are some of the biggest things you've learned?
Well, one thing I learned is I'm old. You get to Nashville and they're like, "How old are you?" I'm like, "I'm gonna be 32." They're like, "I'm sorry, what?" 32. They're like, "You're old." I guess like 25 is like the max cutoff, and God forbid you have kids and then forget it to get started anyway. So I was like, "Well, okay." So there goes that idea. No, I knew that before I went out there. So I gave up on thinking I was just going to be, the next big thing or whatever a long time ago. I had opportunities to go to Nashville when I was a teen, when I was kind of in my prime, if you will.
I remember that.
And so, it's one of those where unless you have people that you trust or you have a manager that somebody who knows them that can vouch for them, it is a scary thing, especially being a female artist coming into that, because there's so many facets in the industry. It can be very dangerous in a lot of ways, and you get around the wrong people at the wrong time, or even the right people at the wrong time, and it can ruin your career before you even get started. And so that's why you see a lot of these artists that go through these slumps of drug and alcohol and all that stuff. A lot of them is because they got in so young and didn't have the right support structure around them, and I was terrified of that. And so I didn't have the hopes of going to Nashville and making it. But what I set out to do is exactly what I'm getting, and it's been a blessing, which is, again, learning the industry, learning the business, learning the cutthroat reality of the music industry.
It's cutthroat now. Go ahead.
And it doesn't matter if you're going after country or Christian. It is difficult on all sides, and my heart, my background is in the Christian industry and in worship. So I do all of these other genres and I enjoy them, but my heart in it has been honestly just my faith and my desire for worship. And so knowing that Nashville is a hub for worship and wanting to learn as much as I can about that, because come full circle, what I want to do is to bring a light to Tulsa as far as worship is concerned. And there's a huge worship community here, and it's growing, and I want to see Tulsa there's no reason why Tulsa can't be the next Nashville long term. There's enough talent here and enough network and business owners and record, studios, and there's enough here that when you get all of the right ingredients together, that we can be the next hub, and I want to see that happen.
And I agree with you, because some of my mentors, Dr. Bill Hagins, I always talk about him on the show. He came here from Boston after working with Maurice Starr and all of them, and came here looking for that talent, to discover that talent. I'm not going to say he did discover some people, other people got credit for it, but needless to say, I agree that the talent is here. But the one thing that I will say has to happen in order to see what you're talking about, people have to look at music as a very viable, life-changing and sustainable thing, i.e. put their money where their mouth is and put some finances in. So what are your thoughts on that when it comes to people seeing it as something that's viable to put their finances in?
Well, in all honesty, I think that's why a lot of people leave here and go elsewhere. That's why so many people flood to Nashville with the hopes of making it, because when you're in your own hometown, you get a lot of people that say, oh, we love you, we support you, let us know if you ever need anything. And then as soon as you say, you know what, I am fundraising for an album and I need 20 grand so I can do it by myself, which isn't a lot these days, for an album. And then it's like, crickets, And so it's like, how much do you like what I'm doing? Like, you feel about that big when you start needing money. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people leave and go hat in hand and go have to pedal somewhere because they don't have the support in their own hometown. But then they're all cool when they go back after they've done something with themselves, and now everybody's like, oh, we love you, we'll support you. And that's a crappy feeling. Whenever you love your hometown and you are trying to
do
not
something
leave.
from it. Right.
And so, sadly enough, it's like, I have to go away and come back. And not that I didn't have any notoriety here. I've built enough of a rapport that, at least I hope it's good, where I can work with just about anybody that I'd like to, especially if I have already and we have that connection. So it's not that I had trouble being able to find people to do music with, if that's the right way of phrasing it, but wanting to take it to the next level and really learn. And there is an art to songwriting. There is a formula, and you don't have to box yourself in, but there is a reason why certain bands do as well as they do. It's because they understand and they are paying attention to the advice that they've been given.
And I think what you just said was honestly a lot of bands and a lot of people that do music here would have the same sentiments that you have. I've actually heard those same sentiments before. Like, if I can't make it here, bruh, I'm off to Nashville. Mm-hmm. I'm off to LA, or I'll go next door to Dallas. I'll go somewhere so that I can get a start. But I do believe, like you're saying, there is now starting to be a viability that's here. People starting to see that, oh, well, why do we keep letting our artists leave when we could literally get behind them and back them? The same thing with the film industry and things of that nature. Now, this show, Up Close with Corey Taylor, it's all about helping people to know what it would take for them to go on and be successful. In about 30 seconds, you got about 30 seconds, share with us, what do you think it takes for a person to go on and be successful?
Determination, honestly, and passion, those two things combined, because if you're passionate enough, you will be determined enough to go after it, to overcome the obstacles, because there are thousands. And if you give up and you let fear take hold of you before you even get started, you'll never make it. So those two things, and just holding on to that, because if you know and it's in your heart that that's who you are, then those two things can help you learn, grow, and become what you want to be.
Sarah Marie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, son.
I hope you've enjoyed our show today. I would like to thank our guest, Sarah Marie, for joining us. Think about this. Change is inevitable, but your attitude towards that change, it is always optional. Until next time, hey, keep looking forward.